طيح كوكواك شحال وصاوك بالك مبني رايك ليداك.
Mandir architecture of Bengal. Deul is a style of temple architecture in eastern India. Deul are developed sometime between the 6th and 10th century AD. Then there was a renaissance in the Gauda Deul art during the late medieval period after Muslim rule. McCutchion, in his book Late Medieval Temples of Bengal Origin and Classification, divides the temple of Bengal Presidency into 4 categories, one of which is the Deul temple. He also delivers Deul into 3 parts: Rekh Deul, Peeda Deul, Begunia. Peeda Deul. Special type of temple architecture can be seen in Bengal during the pre-Mughal period. There are some temples like pyramid with storage. They are called Peeda Deul or Vadra Deul. Later, some more temples were built by mixing Peeda Deul and Rekha Deul. Peeda/Vadra, more or less confined to Midnapur and Bankura district. As in Odisha, it is principally used for the tower of Gajamohan and only rarely for the temple itself. In the earlier example, it looks remarkably similar to the medieval Odishan model but subsequently develops in 3 ways. The low pyramidal form was retained, but the roof and sections were made broad and more or less steep, drastically reduced in number, even only 1 or 2 at Ekteshwar, 3 or 4 being quite common. Sometimes the tiers are so steep and the numbers so increase that lower tower takes on the higher pointed appearance. The reconstructed Rareshwar temple at Ada in Bardhaman district seem to be of this type. Opposite of above, the grooves widen become deeper, resulting in a general increase in height, together with a curvilinear tendency which gave an appearance not unlikely a widely reached early Shikhar type such as the Budi Shobha temple at Bonpash. All forms retain the large crowning Ghanta elements. Rekha Deul. Among the pre-Muslim temples of Bengal, some Deul mandirs are still well preserved. Siddheswari temple in Borakor is one of them. Begunia. 4 temples are collectively known as Begunia near the banks of the river Damodar. These temples are monuments of super historical, aesthetic, immense archaeological value. Earlier there were total 5 temples, currently there are 4. However, on page 17 he mainly mentions the 2 divisions of Rekha and Shikhar and divides Shikhar into 4 levels: basic division and traditional, Rekha or Shikhar. Smooth curvilinear Odisan, Beerbhum Variant, curvilinear with baranda or base moldings, ridged curvilinear Bardhaman, and straight-edged pyramidal. Smooth curvilinear Deuls are divided into 2 categories such as large smooth curvilinear or the common Odisan style. It is visible mainly in Odisha and there are other large examples such as Kesharia, Daton and Tomluk. Small smooth curvilinear, formerly known as the common Midnapur type. Innumerable examples in Midnapur and Bankura district, also adjoining Hooghly and Burdwan, mostly plain, some with the figures. Many consider Odisan and Midnapur as 2 different styles. Example: Ichai Ghosha Deul, Bardhaman Kangsha, Chatyalvera, Midnapur Debra, Shitola, Midnapur Dishpur, Shamchand, Bankura Borjura, Deuls of Krishna Balaram, Bishnupur Bankura, twin Deuls of Kishore Rai and Nikunja Bihari, Bankura. Beerbhum Variant, also confined to Beerbhum district. The tower sweeps from its comparatively low down, developing a rather pointed shape, no distinction between the shikhar and the lower walls, entirely smooth and decorated with spaced horizontal ridges from top to bottom or just above the entrance. Ratha projections shallow, in some cases not extending the full length of the tower but forming an inverted V. Top of the tower sharply cut off with relatively small crowning elements, usually littered or ridged curvilinear Bardhaman. Especially concentrated in the Bardhaman Beerbhum area, but scattered examples occur as far as north as Dinajpur district across the Bangla descent in adjoining Midnapur Hooghly. The shikhar is more or less closely ridged with bars, initially relieved with circles but finally no more than straight lines. The three 15th century temples at Borakara essentially reached equivalents of type A or 1. But with the characteristic tall shape of Bardhaman Deul, their central rathas and pagas are decorated with niches, finials, and leaping lions, and their crowning amalaka is large and flat. But the typical ridged Deul has neither wall nor shikhara niches. The baranda is retained, sometimes barely distinguishable from the ridging, but the shikhar ridging may extend down to the base as on Kodla Mat. The rath projections are shallow and cluster to the corners, leaving a wide central rath paga. The crowning elements are small. These large early Deuls prepared the way through smaller intermediate examples for the common 19th century Shiva temple of Bardhaman and Beerbhum. On the facade adopts the terracotta layout developed on the contemporary Chala and Ratna types. They are generally small, but a few large examples are found both from 18th century and then the type was first formulated and from the standard 19th century phase. The bands forming the slightly projecting entrance are multiplied and filled with detailed carving. The horizontal bars of earlier facades are reduced to an insignificant motif up to the corners. The baranda hardly protrudes. The 19th century terracotta layout differs from the across the base, in addition to which there is an often long horizontal paline or even more than one high across the top of facade. The shikhar, more tightly ridged than on the earlier Deuls, like them may either curve in towards the top or more commonly from lower down to give a pointed shape. A striking feature already apparent in Shitalpur is a tendency to bulge out above the baranda before curving in. A simplified version, increasing found as the 19th century the baranda progresses, replaces the ridges by wide bands separated by narrow grooves. This type is usually plain. All Rekh Deuls have single entrances, usually a pointed archway except on a few of the earliest, but in the rare case of Khanpur, the triple archway giving onto a porch of the Ratna or the straight-edged pyramidal Deuls. They are shallow rath projections with straight cornices. This type is rare and no particular locality. The two examples at Kirteshwari are probably from the 19th century. In the case of the two early examples at Ahmadpur and Handial, the spires may be a later renovation. A similar spire to that at Handial with shallow rath or pagas has also been raised above the 17th century Charchala Kopileshwar temple at Tarash and the much later one beside it. According to many, there are 4 types of Deul architectural style. Dictionary of Bengali Language 2nd edition part 1 written on 1139 pages. Deul architecture 4 types. Rekh Deul or peak, the seat ground of the temple on a steep wall rises from some distance, then the wall gradually slopes inwards. After rising a lot, the gap between the surrounding walls is closed by placing a few wide stone blocks across. On it there is a temple throat like a human throat. On the throat there is also prominent round and flattened object. It is called ala. Above ala is kharpadi. On above there is a kalash or above it the ayut is placed of the deity. This is the general form of Rekh Deul. Memorial of the sacrificial flame. Just as Jataveda Agni carries the sacrificial object to end of supreme soul, so Shikhar drives the form of the devotee towards him. On the other hand, Shikhar, Meru, Mandar, Kailash symbolizes 3 holy peaks. All its forms, Bhumi, Latina, Shekhari, Shamishra, carry this meaning. In Dravidian temples, there is no Shikhar, there is a pyramidal small plane, meaning Shikhar is not the roof of the sanctum, not the building, it's the pillar of Ishwar. Vadra Deul. Its lower part is like Rekh Deul, but then the walls, that is the upright parts, are finished. The temple takes the shape of a Heliad pyramid instead of being curvilinear like the genealogy. It is called Vadra Deular Gandhi or Bhadra Gandhi. Bhadra Gandhi is composed in new gatherings or piers. According to the classical rules, the highest pier is half the length and wide of the lowest pier. Gandhi's head placed on it. Khakra Deul. The seat is rectangular. It can be written somewhat like Rekh Gandhi, somewhat like Bhadra Gandhi. On the deep surface, there is a distinctive shaped object called Khakra. In Shilpo Shastra, there are some prominent mentions of Dravir, Virati, etc. upon Khakra national Deuls. Khakra Deul is the Odia version of Dravidian style temple. The Gaudiya Deul. Temples being in Gaudiya style of architecture, its stoop or roof is raised, crescent moon form, commonly seen in Kali temples of Bengal. Gaudiya Deuls are rare in Odisha. At the gate of the Uttar Parvash Math in Puri and on the banks of Markandeya Sarovar, a temple built by the mother of present Maharaja Kirtichandra shows the use of Gaudiya style. Source: Temples of Odisha. There are few authentic Odisha Deuls, Shikhar or Rekh. They can be seen through the eyes of Vastu Shastra like Jamaat. But apart from hundreds of Deuls from the time of 8th century Siddhastra Shiv Deul, the Deuls of Bengal have taken on various characteristics of their own. In fact, the Nagar Deul spread all over large parts of South India, and the whole North India have taken on certain religion features from place to place, so also in Bengal. It can be said that Nagar is the Bengali form of Deul. The difference with Rekh Deul of Odisha is that Amlak groves are convex in nature. Amlak is the second of the bottom of Rekh Deul's cephalic section. According to Hitesh Ranjan Sannal, the successive sections of cephalic sections are Beki, Amlak, Khapuri, Kolosh. Although the two temples look similar from a distance, a closer look at the exterior decoration reveals differences. There are three Kirtimukhs on the three sides in the middle Rekhagandi part, except the first, that is the frontiest of the temples on the southern side. The northern temple has no Kirtimukh. The religious architecture in Bengal may be conveniently divided into three parts: early Hindu up to the 12th century, later in the western areas, Sultanate 14th to early 16th centuries, Hindu revival 16th to 19th centuries. The pre-Muslim temples are Krosjudi Shiv, Purulia 7th century, Borakor Siddheshwar Shiv, Bardhaman, Khri 7th 18th century, Shiva, Gurdi and Lalpur village of Telkupi, one near the Panchayat Dam reservoir, one in water in a short distance from the bank. Total of 2 temples 10th century. Beglar 8 more temples which are now submerged in the water of the reservoir or have already disappeared, and several smaller ones mention the dedication temple. The account is quoted later at the appropriate place. Dashabhuja, now Udaychondi, and Gajalokhi Pada, Purulia 10th 11th century. Shiva, Vadra Deul Ghata, Purulia, the older of the 2 temples still standing 10th 11th century. Jotar Deul, South Chobbish Pargona 11th century. Otbai Chondi, Bankura, 2 Deuls are known as Baguli 11th century. Surya Shonathpal, Bankura 11th century. Hakanda, Moinapur, Bankura 12th century. Traditionally, this temple was joined by Dharma Mandir. Besides, the deulty of Banda village in Purulia seems to have structural similarities with Telkupi temple. Budhpur of Purulia, contemporary and contemporaries with the Telkupi temple cluster. It is also one of the 10-11th century Hindu temples. Buddheshwar Shiva, the top of the large Deul has been rebuilt for 4 similar Deuls in the 4 corners of this Panchayat style system temple, which are partially preserved, are similar to the Telkupi Mandir of Purulia, or can be like that. So though it is considered 12th 13th century, it may also be 11th century. Birinchinath, south of Panchayat Hill. Although it is ruined, there is no difficulty in getting a glimpse of antiquity from the pillars of the temple area, reused in the modern pavilion and other stone evidences. We have not included the lofty Deul of Siddheshwar Shiv in Bohulada in Bankura, as there is good reason to believe that it was originally a Deul. Again, Deul still surviving in Chhada village of Purulia is of Telkupi style in construction, but there are many Jain idols in the village, but it seems that there were only 3 Jain Deuls.